the first time I saw the impact of the vaccinations was when our company um, held a clinic for a doctor, and we had student nurses giving injections that day because they didn't have any practice. They were like in their last year with no clinicals, and so I had to monitor because I was there in my office and my nurses were out in the field, and they were holding the clinic for this particular doctor's patient load or patient population, and they did 60, I think 58. I think 2 didn't show up.
Okay.
58 injections
So
that
what
day.
a doctor sort of said, "Hey, I'm going to round up, 60 of my patients. I'm going to send them to the injection site. They're all going to arrive hopefully at the same time, and you'll be able to get 60 injections done all at once." Is that the
Yeah.
deal?
Yeah, that's the deal.
Okay.
And I, and everyone I worked with knew how I felt about this particular vaccine because of what I knew about research nursing. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is too scary. And first of all, you don't do a vaccine or any medication on a world population. That is so irresponsible for the healthcare system to do, let alone the government to do,
And for
or vice
everybody,
versa,
yeah,
right?
and for everybody to remember, Shelley was trained specifically to be a nurse, what's called a research nurse, somebody that is participating in the trials and assisting with the trials. And as part of her education, she was required to study, not just know about and read, but study the Nuremberg Code and what it means. And clearly, it was not being followed in the case of the
No.
COVID injections.
No. So yeah, no, not at all. And so just something inside me, a gut feeling. Um, I tend to think it's a God thing, but um, uh, I was like just not feeling good about that day, the day of the injections. The only one that my company allowed to hold at our facility. About 6 to 7 ish hours later, a patient had a heart attack and died. Um,
How often in your career had you ever seen somebody die of a heart attack would you say within a few hours, did you say?
yeah,
Yeah. How often has that occurred in your career?
never,
Never.
never.
So
Yeah,
that must have further alarmed and alerted you that this is just,
something's very wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, and I talked about it with my husband, contacted the doctor, contacted the director, and I let him know. I'm like, this is a vaccine injury. We do need to report this, and that student nurse needs to be told because something she did and implemented harmed one of her patients. And she needs to be able to process through that because this is the best lesson she could ever learn right away, because then she won't be so comfortable and make a huge mistake in the future. She'll then give informed consent and information on the product or medication that she's instilling in someone in the future,
Yeah.
to let them make that choice.
And
We
that
weren't
would,
giving that out.
right. And that would include just what, in business, we call it a cost benefit analysis. Okay. What's the risk? What could go wrong? If this goes right, what do you get? And that's just sort of fundamental, especially if you're going to participate in an invasive medical procedure. You better have a clear idea. And
Yeah.
there was no education on that issue when these injections were given out, right?
No, it was like a conveyor belt that day. Um, there was no, no handouts like we used to give to moms, like with the varicella or the Hep B, or you had these printouts, which no longer are given out to my knowledge. They pulled them, but you would give out, this is what could go wrong, be aware, and a lot of times I would see nurses give it to them after they gave the injection, which was interesting to me because that's not informed consent at that point. But they were just not, no one was talking. I mean, everyone just blindly believed that their best interest was being held to the highest.
Wow.
Uh, extent, and that's just not possible. So I knew something was going awry.